An article by Rhodes CC confirms that 286 close pass submissions to West Midlands Police resulted in just one prosecution. And this was revealed from a Freedom of Information request sent into the police. So this raises the question, well, several questions. First of all, what is a close pass offence? And secondly, is it a result of people misunderstanding what a close pass offence is, or is it simply the police not taking action on those close pass offences? Now, to answer those questions in turn, first of all, there is no specific, quote, close pass offence. What it is prosecuted on occasion is driving carelessly or inconsiderately or even dangerously, so without due consideration for other road users. But on the basis that out of the alleged close passes, which would amount to either inconsiderate, careless or dangerous offences, only one of them being prosecuted does lead us to question whether or not these are being taken seriously. Other Freedom of Information requests detailed in the article, which I will link in the description below, also talk about over 5,500 submissions of video evidence relating to other potential driving offences, and this is just by West Midlands Police alone in just 2022. And that is over 2,000 more than those were submitted in the year 2020, and almost 1,800 more than 2021. So this does lead us to question again whether this is people misunderstanding these offences or whether it's simply the police failing to act on them. So with that in mind, let's look at the clip that I teased you with at the outset of this video and let's comment on it. This video is from Cycle Gaz. I haven't yet asked permission, I'm sure he won't mind, but I will obviously credit in the description below. Let's take a look at this and see what we think. So let's look at that clip again. This is a designated cycle lane with a solid white line that vehicles must not cross. We'll come back to that in a moment. On approaching the junction, the vehicle cuts straight across, causing the cyclist to feel that he's going to crash directly into this vehicle. But as I said earlier, this driver was not prosecuted for anything at all and only given a driving awareness course. But let's wind this back and look at this from the beginning to analyse what happened. The van is approaching from behind this bus. The bus disappears and here you can see the van in the distance. There is no excuse, of course, for the van not to have seen the cyclist, but oddly enough does indicate, but then takes a very wide angle, as in moves out to the outer side of the other lane, putting him out of view of the camera, before swiping across the front of the cyclist. And some very simple signs can tell you that this was a dangerous manoeuvre. Not only has the vehicle crossed the solid white line dividing the cycle lane here in front of the cyclist's path, but also ends up on the opposite side of the road in the wrong lane, because presumably he's going too fast, and obviously couldn't maintain control of the vehicle to remain in his own lane. Altogether, pretty poor. Now let's also bear in mind that you don't have to have, as is confirmed by various police force websites and indeed in law, and as a barrister I can tell you that you do not have to have video evidence to be able to prosecute somebody on these offences. They can be prosecuted merely by witness accounts, usually independent eyewitness, first-hand witness accounts. You may then ask, what is an eyewitness and what is a first-hand eyewitness? Well, if someone were to come to court and give evidence as to what they saw, that is first-hand witness evidence. If they were told that information by somebody else, that makes it hearsay because it's not their direct testimony. If also it is a statement put into court but it is not made directly by that person, it is also hearsay. If it is intended to prove the truth of the matter stated by that statement that is put into court. Only if it is not in verbal evidence, it's hearsay. So with that in mind, as I said, you do not need video evidence to be able to prosecute people for these offences. However, I always say that the best form of evidence is video evidence, audio evidence, and effectively this is first-hand contemporaneous evidence of exactly what happened at that time. It's irrefutable. There may be a sprinkling of objective assessment of the clip, But usually it is going to be quite literally crossing a line, as we've discussed in the video that we just watched. In this case, a solid white line, and then a center lane line, because the vehicle was on the wrong side of the road. And not only that, the lines drawn metaphorically by the highway code vis-a-vis the hierarchy and the order of potential vulnerability of other road users, and this being a van should really have held back and waited for the cyclist to cross the junction. There is absolutely no excuse whatever, in my professional opinion, for that van to have cut across the front of the cyclist, and most certainly should have been prosecuted for, at the very least, careless or inconsiderate driving, if not dangerous driving. Now, there's a lot of debate as to what amounts to dangerous driving. It's normally reserved for when there is an injury, there is a serious injury or fatality or that kind of thing. But dangerous driving does not require that someone is actually injured in those circumstances. Section 2 of the Road Traffic Act 88 for dangerous driving is committed when the defendant's driving falls far below that expected of a competent and careful driver. It is an objective test, and it tests whether or not it would be obvious that driving in that way would be dangerous. There are lots of examples of typical dangerous driving cases. They generally include racing, generally going too fast, driving aggressively, ignoring traffic lights, traffic road signs, warnings from passengers. Even the CPS website itself lists overtaking dangerously as one of the criteria for dangerous driving. Of course, driving under the influence of drink or drugs, including prescription drugs, driving when unfit, all of these kind of things, having injury, knowing the vehicle's dangerous, or the driver being avoidably and dangerously distracted. This can be, for example, watching a film, eating, or any other kind of thing that causes the driving to be dangerous and obviously dangerous to somebody else. Even talking to a passenger. Get this, the CPS website itself lists and refers a typical dangerous driving case as talking to a passenger if you are so distracted that it becomes dangerous driving. So I will link to this in the description below as well. You can take a look at this as well and compare that with the clip that we just watched, because in my view, with those examples, it can easily be chalked up to dangerous driving. But if we look at this instead as a careless driving as per Section 3 of the Road Traffic Act 88, committed when the defendant's driving falls below, as opposed to far below, that's the distinction, the standard of a competent and careful driver. Now, the examples given for careless or inconsiderate driving: overtaking on the inside, driving too close to another vehicle, which could include a cyclist, by the way, driving through red lights, turning into the path of another vehicle, which again could be the case in this video, the driver being unavoidably distracted by doing anything like tuning the radio, flashing lights, and all sorts of other things. So as I said earlier on in the video, there is no specific close pass offence, but there are various offences such as careless or inconsiderate driving and even dangerous driving, which I argue should be prosecuted in some of these cases because the driving is clearly dangerous. Because if we take this situation where this van pulled across the path of the cyclist and just say the cyclist was not able to brake as he did so, causing marks on the road, remember that he had to brake so hard, and the cyclist went straight into the van, then that would quite clearly be obviously dangerous driving to any objective bystander assessing whether or not the standard fell far below that of a competent and careful driver. In my view, it does. But in this case, no prosecution. In this case, it came down to an awareness course for the driver. According to CycleGaz on Twitter, which I will link in the description below, this was an awareness course for the driver. No prosecution, no other action other than an awareness course. Now, I will argue the other side and say that an awareness course is good because these awareness courses are very much more than you must not speed and you must not do this and you must not do that. These awareness courses do take you through a whole host of different things. Not that I've been on one, but I know what they do. They take you through a whole host of different things to teach you effectively why certain things are dangerous. And I've spoken to clients who've come back from these awareness courses and said it was eye-opening, and they've been made aware, ironically enough, of lots of things that they didn't know about before, and it's made them a safer driver. So yes, these awareness courses do make you more aware and they make you a safer driver. But in some cases, I do believe that a prosecution is more suitable. As a professional, as a barrister, that is what I think. But it comes back to the evidence. You might know that we've launched an app, Proofify. I'll link it in the description below. This helps you to store evidence contemporaneously. You can upload those, you can store those. As I always say, evidence is key. You need to keep the evidence. So let me know in the comments what you think. This is an objective test. After all, you can let me know objectively what you think of this standard of driving, whether the driving fell far below that expected of a competent and careful driver. My view, for what it's worth, both as a citizen and as a barrister, I believe that this driving fell far below the standard required. And even if it didn't fall far below, it certainly fell below, which is careless and inconsiderate driving. So in my view, that was worthy of a prosecution. Just my view, for what it's worth, putting it out there, but let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure you like this video, subscribe, and send me your clips, or link me to clips that you want me to comment on. But in the meantime, those are my views. I thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.